We're going to animate the line or a line that draws over itself in After Effects today. So in the video, I have the furniture kind of collapsing on itself, and then a line draws, and then it comes up into the home, and then that initial line that we don't really need fades away. So that's what we're going to be doing. This is what it looks like in real time. This is a simple process in After Effects. So I have all my layers invisible, invisible, except for the home layer, because I want to know where to draw that last line right up to the home. I also, when I animated the full version of this, I had the furniture collapsing, and that showed me where the line was or where it needed to start in the middle. So the first thing I need to do is just anywhere in the layer or in the timeline, I'm going to control click, go to new, and we want a new shape layer. So this shape layer, we can rename this if we want. We'll just call this line up to home. And in order to get this to draw the line, we're going to, well, on this layer first, let's just go up and make things simple here. We'll go up to our pen tool. This is the same pen tool that you use in Illustrator and everywhere else. And so the furniture collapses right in the center. I'll just click and start to draw. I'm holding my shift key down so I can get some straight lines. We won't make this too fancy, just something similar to what I did. And then we'll end right here. We'll curve that up. Okay. You can zoom in to make sure that's lined up. Once you have it drawn, you can use your selection tool and move these points around. Now I have this set right here. If I click fill, I can click none for the fill. Then if I click on stroke, I can choose whatever color I want. If I click the color, I just chose black. And then I know that my Illustrator file had a 9-point line around the house, so I'm going to use that as well. Okay. So now I have this line, and I can go in here and tweak this, like I said, if I want, and make sure that everything looks nice and even. Don't worry too much about that right now. Okay, so on this layer with, this is the line up to home, I'm going to come out here in the timeline, and you'll of course adjust this as you need to when you're setting up your own file. But I'm going to go to add right here under the layer, contents, add, and I'm going to add a trim path. This is the way After Effects does it. So in this trim path, I have an end, and I have a start, and I have an offset. So we're just going to use the end part. So right here in the timeline, I'm going to click End Stopwatch, and that sets a keyframe. I'm going to move it over a little bit, and I'm going to set a second keyframe. The first one I left at 100, and the second one is at 100. So now I'm going to go back to that first one. I'm holding my shift key down to snap to that keyframe. Select this keyframe. We're going to set that at 0. Now as you're watching, you see that line kind of backtracking on itself. I'm going to set it all the way back to 0. Oops, 0. So now when you watch the line, open this up just a little bit, it will draw over itself as I track across here. And it's ending right at that line where the house is. So that will draw that line in. Now what I did is, so I started at 0, and then it draws all the way into 100. So then what I did at the very end of this is right here, I just went to my opacity, which is under transform, still under this layer, line up to home, clicked on opacity here, and then set that at 100, and then just had it fade out. Set it out away, put your second keyframe in, and had this drop to 0. And now you will see that it will first draw itself. So it fades out onto its, or into the white. So another thing you could do, let me just back up here if I got rid of that. Another thing you could do, which I didn't like as much, but you could have it kind of draw or remove the line as it goes through. And we would simply do that by maybe halfway through here. What we would do is we would click the stopwatch on start. So now we're going to control the start of that line. And we can set that at 0 right now. That's okay. Let's come over here a little bit past it. Click a second keyframe and see if I have this right here. We'll add that to 100 over here. So what we're doing here is now if you go through this, it will start to draw, and then just for this space from here to here, it will draw the line, and then it will continue to draw the line, but now when we start here, it will pull it away and kind of erase it as it comes up behind it. And then as it gets all the way to the end, it will go and disappear. I kind of like the fading, but either one will work just fine. The other thing you might be noticing here too is with the end caps, you can control them like you do in Illustrator with the shape here and stroke. If I go to the line cap, I can just do a rounded end, and that will make it look a little bit nicer when it draws in. And we have a lot of curved lines here, but instead of using the miter join, I could use the round join. We didn't join too much, but if you're going to draw more paths, you might want to do that. But the round cap makes it look a little bit nicer. So that is how that works to draw the line. And I did the same for the house line. You just, well, actually, I didn't do exactly the same. Why don't we take a look at that real quick? Let's close this up and we'll hide this. If I go to the next one down here, this is the home outlines. So this one is a little bit different because since this is just a layer from Illustrator, I have to click on this and I have to create the shapes from the vector layer here. So now it puts basically a separate layer up here with a little star, kind of like the drawing that I had, the line drawing. So I still have this layer underneath here, but we're going to turn that one invisible. And now we're going to work on this here. So notice that this is just like a line drawing because it was a line in Illustrator. And I'm going to go to Add. And the same thing, we're going to go to Trim Path. And in the Trim Path, we'll do the same thing. Find on here where we want that to start drawing. And we'll click on End on the stopwatch. Move it over a little bit. Add a second keyframe. And then that second keyframe, that's where it will draw in. Go over here, click on the first keyframe, drop that to 0. And now you will see when we come across the timeline, this will draw that path in. So what I really did here is when I had the first line drawing all around in the background, when it synced up with the house, I simply aligned those or synced the end of that line drawing, the end of that line drawing with the home starting to draw in. Let's see, I probably should do that here. And if we come down here in the timeline, I can just take these, move these over to right where that ends, right there. Oops. Hold your Shift key down, lock it in there, and those two align. So now this draws in, and then as soon as it hits the bottom there, oops, I did it the wrong one, sorry. There. Now as soon as this draws in, it will just continue like it was part of the same line, except the first one is going to disappear, and it will allow the house to draw in. And I did the same thing with these others, with the windows and the shrubs. They all drew in the same way by just creating um, that element out of them, or the new layer element out of it, and adding the trim path and then adjusting that end. Thank you.